Step is lighter. You've lost some weight, gained muscle.
I'm not gonna spar with you, Murdock.
No, I wasn't asking you to.
Well, I'll admit it's not entirely unpleasant to see you again. It's been a long time. Life has happened. You have children?
No. You?
Oh, no. I tried to mentor someone, but... Well, that's the closest I've come.
Didn't she shoot you in the face?
Yeah. Younger generation, what can we do? You're keeping tabs on me.
No, I'm not. I'm just... Call it professional curiosity.
What profession would that be?
I'm a lawyer.
I've never been to this place before. I miss Becky's diner.
Me too. Yeah, I don't make it to Hell's Kitchen much these days.
Neither do I. By the look of it, you've come up in the world.
I could say the same about you.
Hey, Ted!
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're a real man of the people now.
A rich man, by his very nature, is self-serving. A mayor serves his city.
Huh.
You don't seem entirely
Can you
convinced.
blame me? Considering you've tried to kill me a few times over the years.
As you have.
No. Incarcerate, maybe. Kill? Never.
I wonder if your darker half would agree.
That part of my life is over.
Well, tragedy can transform a man.
Hey, panelists, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And I'm Becky.
All right, everybody. Yes, this is the moment we've been waiting for. As we started Panels to Pixels, we started it with the Punisher series that was on Netflix. Obviously, Netflix had Daredevil. Steve and I actually continued on with the Daredevil series when it came into Netflix, and now it's back. It's on Disney Plus. And yes, it is back in full raw form like it was on Netflix. So we are jazzed and happy about having the show back and how it should be. And we got all the kudos. So keep in mind, those of you that are new, this is a spoiler-full podcast about season 1 of Daredevil Born Again, found on Disney Plus. This episode of the podcast, we will be covering the first 2 episodes. And yes, we are a little bit late in comparison to most podcasts. Sorry, life gets in the way. We got a little bit busy, but here we are now. So here we are, and hopefully you'll get this within maybe 2 days before episode 3 drops. But we're going to discuss in our first points of Daredevil Born Again season 1. We're going to do episode 1. So who wants to tackle that synopsis and title?
I'll take it. Episode Daredevil Born Again, season 1, episode 1, Heaven's Half Hour. The synopsis is Matt Murdock gives up the mask. Wilson Fisk has his sights set to new heights. And okay, that's kind of the episode, I guess.
Which is
That's very basic.
It's like the most
Which is
basic.
funny too, is how did he get his sight back? From once we left him off, everybody, because what was that? An episode of Echo? But Becky's like, what do you mean? But they do talk about that in episode, I think within this episode, actually, because
Episode 2, you get more.
yeah, they do. So with that, overall thoughts about this, Becky, you're kind of new to this, so we're going to move to you first. What is your first experience with this? Because you've never had a background. You could tell everybody your background with Daredevil and your thoughts, and then on top of that, what your thoughts about this episode as being just first introduced to this Daredevil series.
Well, my history with Daredevil is Ben Affleck, so I don't have a very positive opinion on as far as history goes. However, episode 1, I liked it. I got interested in it. it was obvious there was characters I didn't have a clue who they were.
Mhm.
Their storylines that carried on from something I do not know what it was, but I'll have more to say about it in episode 2. But I was interested in it. I enjoyed it. I thought great actors, and once I saw Vincent D'Onofrio, I'm all in. I think he's an amazing actor. So seeing him in the show was great. But the first episode I will be honest, it was confusing, but I did not let that take away from. I just focused on the acting and what I thought about the story as I knew it. Lots of action. It was cool. I liked it.
Awesome. Steve?
Yeah, it was a good start. And Becky, I appreciate what you're saying, because I can see how somebody coming in cold would be confused about this. And we'll talk some about it, but really I wasn't. I liked it was a good start to the show. It establishes, it kind of sets up where we're going. But really, the main, I have to say, for fans of the show, for people who are coming back to it, who know the backstory, really that first 15 minutes was probably the most important. And then really just one big thing happens really the rest of the episode, really. So I'm excited that it's back, and the second episode was better, but I was, like I said, I just wasn't, even this on the second watch. I picked up a couple little things on the second watch, but the first episode was just kind of, for me, it was just kind of like, okay, we're establishing where we are and how long it's been, and there you go. We're establishing that we've moved forward, and now here's how the rest of the series is going to go.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of brought us all back to the original, and it is kind of hard for those people who are new. I agree with that completely. So they're all like jumping into it going, "Oh, I've never saw this before." And now, mind you, everything else that Netflix had for Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist is available on Disney Plus, as far as I know. So you could actually go back and watch that. Even the Defender show is there as well, because Disney owns them, because they bought them out. To me, it was like, oh, okay. They brought it back, and like Steve said, it was kind of a renaissance. It's coming back to it, and that whole introduction and reintroduction of Foggy Nelson, Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock, Deborah Ann Wall as Karen Page, and Eldon Henson as Foggy Nelson. And then seeing them rekindling their passion and everything within the opening scenes and everything, and back to Hell's Kitchen. And you see other people there. We see some other people there involved, like Kristen McDuffie. We see talking it up with Eldon, or Foggy. I keep saying Eldon. Anyhow, and then on top of that, we get Cherry there, who I don't recall from the original series. I'm pretty sure, because my memory is fading, and obviously,
I think we had to have seen him somewhere, because
I think we did.
We had to, because I can't. The relationship is too good. I didn't go back and look to see where Sherry came from either. But from the context, I was like, okay, he must have been somehow involved. I didn't do a full rewatch of the original Daredevil series. I was trying to. I just got caught up in other things. I think I got through halfway through the first season, so I didn't even get close to a full rewatch of the Netflix's Daredevil series. But you mentioned it, and I don't know if the audience heard my huge sigh when you brought it up, because it really did. It was the biggest thing, even on the second watch, that really just bugged me, is the whole bait and switch we had that for months leading up to this series. We had the return of Matt Murdock, Foggy Nelson, and Karen Page. The Punisher's coming back eventually. Like, we had all these reports about, oh, we got all of our characters are coming back, and I guess I did a little further research this afternoon, and maybe they weren't ever supposed to always, but still, I really feel like it was a bait and switch with us.
It was.
They made us think that Foggy and Karen were coming back for the whole series, and then in the first 2 minutes we get Foggy shot down in the street. We get Bullseye, who I loved the Bullseye character in the Daredevil series. We get a brief few minutes of him. That's still, that whole scene is confusing because he shoots Foggy with a sniper rifle, then he shoots 2 other people outside of the bar with a sniper rifle, and then he jumps down to the street to attack the. Why? What was the
I think his anticipation and motivation was to go after both Foggy and Karen, because if
he should have done that, because he shot 2. No, Mark, I've got to take I got to correct you. I got to correct you, because Karen was standing right there and he shot 2 other people on either side of her.
And when he shows up, he's got the gun aimed at Karen at that point.
He does, and he says, "Hello, Karen," and he walks up to her with the pistol, and then Daredevil stops him. I totally acknowledge that.
Okay,
that makes no sense to me.
It looked to me like he was ready to wipe out all lawyers and anybody associated with that.
If he wanted to kill Karen, why didn't he just shoot her down with the rifle?
I feel the same way too. Why didn't they just? I think it due to story, they probably just kept her around.
I mean, obviously,
that that was like staring right at us in the face.
And then of course we get later scenes with her where she talks about when we come back to the time after the credits. After the opening scene, we get Daredevil beats the snot out of Bullseye.
Oh my God, we're going to go into favorite moments, and that's going to be part of mine. But
when we learn that Karen is moved to San Francisco and she's out of the story and she's gone, and that's it. And I'm just like, this just bugged the snot out of me, because they built up this series as being, we got all of our characters back.
Exactly.
And then we find out that, according to
we got casualties.
According to Deborah Ann Wall's Twitter, apparently she was never even approached to do the series until last minute, and they brought her in
for these last minute scenes.
And I'm just like going, how did we all get caught up in this misinformation? And I feel
it's called
cheated.
Social media. Everybody.
I feel cheated by the show. And I wanted to get that out initially, because that is my biggest problem with this.
I feel with you. I feel about the same way, because these characters represented what we followed throughout that time, and we wanted that, and then now it's like, oh man.
Well, and it had to be confusing for you, Becky, to drop right into these characters' lives and
then they just kill somebody.
Well, and that I'm hoping you guys can clarify several things for me. Okay, so I got the impression, first off, who the frick is Bullseye? And why was he coming after all these people? That's where I was like, oh, that first opening bit, I was like, I'm so freaking confused. I don't understand. And then, were Karen and Matt were they a thing at some point, or were they supposed to be a thing? And who was Foggy on the phone with, and why was that tied to why this Bullseye guy went after them? Any backstory would be great, because I was like, I don't understand a damn thing that's happening.
The best I can tell you is that Bullseye is an assassin whose his specialty is he can. You saw him throw the paperclip through the light bulb.
Yeah,
he was throwing all those. Yeah, he was throwing all those daggers and things. That's his specialty. Is he has great eye contact, and he can throw things, and he can shoot, and he can that was his character. He was in the original series a couple of seasons, and then he was in so no, we have no context as to who this Benny is.
Yeah,
that Foggy.
Okay, so I'm not supposed to know that.
Yeah, I think that's a new case that Foggy was on, and it could be possibly that we get Foggy from like flashbacks later on. But
I don't know why they would. Why bother? I mean, really, honestly, I don't know why they would bother.
It's a possibility for the fact that
it's possible, since they showed the courtroom scene with Bullseye getting his
sentence.
Sentence. Thank you. That's the word I was searching for. But yeah, maybe we'll see Bullseye again, and they'll give us some backstory on that. But
Yeah,
honestly, if they don't, I don't care. It's not gonna.
I know. It's like it won't bring Foggy back at this point, who we all enjoyed. So Becky's going to be on a journey if she actually does follow the first, what was it, 4 seasons of Daredevil?
3 or 4 seasons, yeah.
This made me want to
Netflix.
go, but the second episode made me want to go back and
the relationship, and that's the other thing. The other thing too is, and even from the comics, the relationship between Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson is a thing. It is their friendship. Their friendship is huge, and so killing Foggy Nelson like this would be like, I don't know, it would be like killing Martha Kent. It would be like killing Alfred.
Yes.
Okay. In my opinion, to put it in a DC parlance, I'm trying to think of somebody.
Happy Hogan. Happy Hogan.
Yeah, there you go. That's a great comparison for Marvel.
Like
it would be like if they just all of a sudden. Their best friend, their really good friend, and you love them. And
if
John Favreau just said, "Hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this character anymore," and so the first 2 minutes of the next Marvel movie, we get John Favreau, we get Happy Hogan being killed off. That's the equivalent of Foggy Nelson being killed in my eyes.
Which is no.
Yeah.
And then it gets so upsetting. And then on top of that, to give a little point to that scene, when this scene happened, oddly enough, this was filmed on Deborah Ann Woll's birthday.
Oh my
last
goodness.
year. So she was covered in blood on her birthday when they gave her cake on set that day. So I thought that was a little tidbit that was interesting too, because I follow her and I actually tried to get her publicist and talk to her at one point to try to have her on the podcast for an interview, everybody. But I couldn't due to issues because her publicist and her at the same time were telling me on the Zoom call, because we're in blackout period. I'm like, darn it. But that was during the time when they were filming, so I understand. So
totally
it's still open for them to come back at a later point and talk about it overall. To sum up my overall satisfaction of the series being back, yes, it's centered more around Matt, about the Daredevil, and of course Wilson Fisk as where he's going and leading and infiltrating Matt's life. And then this is like a new resurgence. And I think this is Matt coming back, but because the funniest part, and then this is where we're going to go right into our overall, our things that we liked about the show, things that are interesting, things that we could talk about within the show. They kind of fade over the idea of the blip from Marvel within these 2 episodes. So they don't say, "Oh, we were blipped out for like 5 years or something." They don't really talk about that at all.
What do you mean?
Oh, if you remember with Avengers Infinity War at the end, Thanos' snap.
But I mean, none of these. We didn't know the fate of any of these characters. So
they weren't in that. They weren't in that, right?
But they're still inclusive into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this case.
But I think Marvel's moved on from that storyline, and there's no reason to address it.
Bring it again. Exactly.
They had no unless hey Matt, you disappeared for 5 years. Where were you for the last 5? Unless there was something like that. But again, I don't think the blip had any context with these episodes.
Yeah, I know. But you thought that in the very beginning, them getting back together at the bar, hanging out, reconnecting.
I just assumed that all took place after after the return.
Because it seemed to me that they were just reconnecting to get back together and hang out.
Well, because when they're in the bar, we don't know we're not given a time frame of how long has gone on.
Has it been? I'm thinking it's current time.
That's what I'm saying. I think it was like probably last year since they jump us a year later. It's probably so I would put it after the everybody's return and they're coming back. Life is back to normal and they're doing their
moving
normal
about
thing.
Their day.
Because I took it as just a celebration, like something like, hey, happy hour after work.
And
everybody was just going out and hanging out. Like that's something that they usually did, which is why I asked. Karen made that comment to Matt, like, we should get out of here. And he said something about, won't that break the friend code? Or one of them said that. So I was like, oh, cool, there's a history here. And then bam, she's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, dang.
Yeah, I think this was
really
a
feel like
tacked
I missed
on.
something.
I think this was. This whole opening, this whole cold open, in my opinion, everything prior to the 1 year later that we get Matt making his coffee, all of that was tacked on because somebody, Kevin Feige or whoever, was like, oh gosh, we should really bring back these two actors, these three actors, William Bethel playing Bullseye and Deborah Ann Wall and Elgin back to close out their storylines. I think it was just, hey, let's tack on. Let's real quick let's do this scene, this cold open, tack this on, close that story out, and move on to our new story. And that's why I'm so upset about it, because that was not the way the series was billed. It wasn't. Again, I mean, I guess we should have thought that when it's called Born Again. It's not called The Next Day. So.
Or the next day after he had a one night stand with She-Hulk,
exactly. This is a whole new it's
a whole new story, and it's a whole new storyline, which kind of fills in to more of like the Frank Miller darkness that's out there, and how Frank Miller wrote at that point, and where Kevin Smith actually did his own turn on Daredevil as well with his writing, and trying to be like, and I'm sorry, Kevin, if I'm insulting you, you're trying to be like him with your writing. So I did love that idea and that thought of where they're going with this. So it's kind of like presenting its own world outside of the MCU, but still being part of the MCU. And I think they're trying to infiltrate that, because in episode 2, we get references and we'll talk about them.
Yeah, we'll get those when we get to episode 2. So.
Yeah, exactly. But within this one, to concentrate on the action and everything that I do love about the show and everything, it's like the heart in it, with how Matt literally jumps into Daredevil mode, puts on the mask and the costume, and goes after Bullseye. And we had seen it's actually Wilson Bethel was Bullseye in the original series, and he came back to reprise it. And he's in, you can see his gloves are almost reminiscent to the comic book with the Bullseye thing on it. He's got a mask on. He comes in, he does reference Matt, and knowing that who Matt is, and he's attacking, but and we see the presence of his abilities as well as Matt, and Matt getting stabbed, which is so human, because Matt, we know, is human, even though he has these abilities. But how he's able to knock people out with like pool balls and cues, and when they knock down, and the continuous battle from that therein moment when Matt shows up on the scene at the bar just after Karen is shown the gun, and Matt just starts attacking after the what was it, the smoke grenade. And it's
there's
like
a pretty good oneer. There's a pretty good oneer where I'm assuming it's a oneer where the camera just pulls back in one continuous shot, and it just pulls back until it's wider and wider until you see what all is going on. And which I thought was a really cool camera shot.
And it's a good callback from the original series from the first season and the first episode.
They did a lot of those one take shots in the original
through with the action, and it's like a one shot. That's what we're talking about, Becky. They literally do the action sequence real time and with the fighting, and there was no stopping. And that is what this callback is, and that's what I was referencing before.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of those in the original series. That's why the original series is so good. Yeah, they do a lot of very Hitchcock-like one shot takes. That
are all of these people the same? Like, is the guy who plays Daredevil, is he the same as he was in the first?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Charlie Cox. Yeah.
All right, cool. Because I like him. I really.
Yeah, Charlie's really cool.
I buy him. Of course, again, my only person to go by is Ben Affleck, and that is what it is. But I really, really liked him.
And Colin Farrell as Bullseye with the
with the
star on his forehead.
Yeah, that was. I think he's doing. I'll have a lot more to say in episode 2 because episode 1 was just me like, I don't know.
Yeah, episode 2 episode 1 didn't have a lot of meat to it. Like I said,
it was catching up. Literally,
after that cold open, really the biggest thing that happens is Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, becomes mayor. There's the rest of the episode,
and then it's
we have a
also
meet cute, and there's an almost meet cute. There's almost not meet cute in there.
Correct.
So.
And also the mention of like vigilantes. They talk about it. You see it at the bar on the TV, how they talk about vigilantes within New York City, protecting the public, like White Tiger and Daredevil. And they have an image of the White Tiger helping somebody at a bodega in.
I thought that was cool because that's the same tape that we're going to see in episode 2.
Yeah.
Of the White Tiger.
I thought it was pretty cool because it segues and gives a little answer to somebody else that's out there. So, and then we get reintroduced to Wilson Fisk, and then his wife, and then
I loved that moment.
Yeah, he just stops the 5 families at that point, right?
Yeah, that was cool when door opened, and because I liked that they showed her. Being a boss bitch, doing her thing. And I was like, yeah, girl power. And then that door opened and I was like, oh, you got Vincent D'Onofrio. I am feeling this. I love him. So that was, and I had the interaction because I thought he was like going to go in and, beat her up or something, that he looked so mad. But, I liked that dynamic between the two of them, and it plays out more in episode 2, and I'm glad because that storyline is my favorite.
Yeah, there's a lot more of that story in the original series that now you could actually go back. And the same thing for the listeners. If you never watched the original Netflix series, it's available on Disney Plus. And no, we don't get any promotional things from them for promoting it, but you can go back and watch it. For those of you aficionados like me who bought all the Blu-rays, you have the uncut, complete, unfiltered versions. So you have all that benefit to you. But it's still there and how it's in its raw format of the story. So you get to actually witness that and go back in time and see it from the very beginning and where it is till now. So binge watching is fun, everybody. So have fun with that as you're watching this show to reinvigorate for those of you that are new to it. But I just love that, we get all this information coming back and then you see Fisk the way he is. He mentions that, she even mentions that he's been gone away for so long and he just shows up and he could just end it. So, and then on I think they make mention about his weight too, because he slimmed down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have this in my notes as well, because Matt Murdock makes a mention of it that, your step is lighter, you're in that, and you can see just from the way Vincent D'Onofrio carries the character, it's a weaker. This is an acting, this is a tour de force by Vincent D'Onofrio. This is a totally different king. Maybe not totally different. This is a different Kingpin than what we saw prior to the end of the Echo series when he got shot in the face.
Correct.
He is definitely trimmed down. He has a lighter walk. He doesn't. There's this thing that he did as Kingpin, and I remember because Denzel Washington did it in Training Day and does it in a lot of his movies as well, where he walks with his shoulders.
Yeah.
And he did that as Kingpin. He would do that. And you saw in this episode, he doesn't walk that way. He walks much lighter. But if you see those original Kingpin show that he was in, where he played the Kingpin, he had that shoulder walk that he did, and he's getting it back a little bit in these episodes, but you can definitely see there's a different swagger to the Kingpin or to Wilson Fisk. As I just put Fisk in my notes because I'm like, man, I can't call him the Kingpin right now because he's not the Kingpin. He's not Wilson Fisk right now. So it's
kind of like the Lex Luthor of becoming president at one point in the DC universe, in the comics. Everybody, not in well, we don't know until that movie comes out. But anyhow, but it gives me that same sensibility and feeling of the character of like somebody who is a villain, and then they just become and they run for office, and then but they still have that inkling of them in it.
Oh yeah. We're gonna see.
There was no doubt in my mind that he's still a bad guy in there. There's no doubt.
Oh yeah, in the second episode we get to see it even more. So there's more. There's one other thing before we move on, and I don't know how close you guys are to moving on. There's one other thing that in my second watch of the first episode that really took me out of it, and I don't know what happened with the sound editors, the soundtrack editors, but it was really off-putting for me. Like I noticed there's scenes where like it's a very quiet, kind of low, very superhero kind of underneath it's kind of jaunty but also menacing, and then it kind of gets louder and then it's gone when when Matt and Wilson go into the diner to talk. It builds up and then it's gone. And I was like, the fact that I'm noticing the soundtrack, Mark, I don't notice soundtracks. The fact that I'm noticing soundtrack means something was off about the way they did the soundtrack editing in this one that I just didn't understand. It didn't fit the dark tone for me, because it was kind of this jaunty kind of tune underneath it. But then it got kind of menacing, and then it would build up, and then it was just gone. And I'm just like, what? Why are they doing this? And the soundtrack really confused me in this first episode. Like I said, to the fact that I don't even remember what I noticed in the second episode, but the first episode I definitely noticed there was something wrong with the way they did the sound editing. But
yeah, I understand what you're feeling, because it was kind of lack of sound at one point when I was watching it. I watched it twice. And the conversation was kind of light, but the underlining tones are very, very, very non-existent at one point when I was watching, because I wasn't really paying attention to music. I was paying more attention to the conversation.
The other thing I had before we move on is I absolutely love, and I'm glad they kept them going in the second episode, and I hope they keep them going throughout the entire season. I love the man on the street interviews. That was
interesting. Phoebe,
with the same reporter who talked to Wilson Fisk in the second episode. But I just absolutely love all those interviews, all those cut scenes. It reminded me of, and Mark, you will appreciate this. It reminded me of the Boondock Saints. Yes. The end of the first Boondock Saints movie, where they're cutting in all those, or even throughout the movie where they cut in, these interviews with Man on the Streets going, what do you think of the What do you think of the Saints? What do you think
it was the very end credit scene of it. Yeah, I do agree.
It really reminded me of that. And I hope they keep those going, because I'm absolutely loving everything they're doing with those things. It's not taking me out of the story at all. It's giving me something to
vibes of vigilantism, like with the Boondock Saints and what they did. And on top of that, this show was released in March, and St. Patty's Day is around the corner.
Exactly. And it's giving, like I said, it's giving me these. It's giving me those. It gives that break in the tension kind of vibes that the show, I think, needed in some points. So,
but they do a great job with those. They're not just random. They're whatever part of the story they're moving into. It fit. So I agree with you. It was a nice touch. It's not something you see happen a lot in shows. And I call them BB breaks in my head.
I love that, BB breaks.
But they relate to the story, so it just I agree with you. Very cool.
Yeah. And the only other thing, the last thing we get, and it was one of those things that I must have skipped over the scene the first time I watched it, was the end, at the very end, when Fisk and when this goes to what you were talking about, Becky, is the relationship between Vanessa and Wilson, where he tells her, I know about Adam. I know about I assume the guy you've been cheating on me with. and she says, "Don't kill him." And I really thought that scene was interesting, and especially when we go into the second episode, we see where they get lead to in this. But seeing that moment of quietness between them, where he's like, "Look, I know you've been sleeping around, and we're gonna move forward from this." So I thought, I mean, what did you think, Becky?
I mean, her "don't kill him," I was like, it just helped me understand, okay, this guy is not just giving off bad guy vibes. He's obviously done some things in his past. So it helped clarify that I do believe this guy is a bad guy.
Yeah.
But it bothered me just a little bit because it was a kind of a trope. The bad guy husband's gone. Oh, well, she's going to go sleep with somebody else.
I can see that.
Going to find out. And it was a little, I think she had such a badass moment.
Yeah, she did.
With the families. And then I felt like it was kind of tropey, but it did help me understand a little bit more about Fisk and what kind of person he is.
There was a couple of things that I did enjoy in the show that kind of, there are a little bit changes. Now, in the very beginning, Steve, this kind of reflects on the original Netflix series, but the introduction and the music is a little bit different, a little bit more ominous in this one in comparison. And it's like the kind of the disintegration of Lady Justice throughout it, and I thought that was a nice segue into it, and how they did that with AI in the very beginning of the animation. I thought that was cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, with the credits showing that, and then the pieces coming back together to form the Daredevil statue. Kind of thing is cool. Is really cool. Yeah, that opening animation is very different from what we got in the original, because like you said, in this one we're getting those churches crumbling, and we're getting all these different things kind of crumbling and then being put back together. So.
And I do also enjoy the fact that they do go back in time and they do reference Hogarth, Chow, and Benowitz, which oddly enough, how in the very beginning when, Foggy, just to reflect on Foggy a little bit, he's trying to chat up, Kristen McDuffie about it, and then just abbreviating it all wrong. And I thought it was so cute, but that's one of my favorite moments. But that's the one thing that we get out of Eldon. But obviously, if you don't realize, Eldon looks a lot thinner and slimmer in this particular show, because Eldon was working out. The last time I saw him, he had muscle on him, so he's wearing kind of loose, baggy clothing. When I saw him at a convention last, he was kind of chiseled out, so I thought it was pretty cool. I have a love for Eldon Hansen. But that's all I had for this particular episode. I really did enjoy it in the sense that it's the beginning. It's coming back. It's a Born Again. It's a new show. So obviously it's centered more around Fisk and Matt and other people apparently too, because they kind of like sandwiched it in, especially when Cherry discovers Matt is Daredevil in the very beginning. We kind of overshadowed that one. And he's part of the Murdock and McDuffie.
I like him.
I really do. I want to go back now. I want to really research and see if that character is in the original series. He's got to be. There's the relationship is too good. For it not to be there. Especially when McDuffie calls him, calls him your hatchet man. And Matt's like, no, he's my investigator. And we see that he retired from the police department, but he hasn't retired. He hasn't stopped, doing
but the fact
stuff.
that it's another person that knows who Matt is outside with the cowl, the cowl and the costume.
And we're going to get to that in the second episode, because Matt does something in the second episode that really bugged me.
I'm pretty sure he did. And I know what it is. There is, before we wrap up episode one. Do you have any notes, or before we get into quotes?
I'm checking. I don't have any quotes except the Kingpin is back. When Matt says that to him in the diner, I don't really have any other quotes.
All I only have
Trying to
one.
see if there was
I don't have
anything
any, and I
else.
know that's shocking.
Talked about the soundtrack. Talked about we mentioned the quick mention of the White Tiger at the very beginning. Oh, the moment I thought it was interesting, and I don't remember how much Matt talked. I know there was a lot of backstory about Matt growing up in the Catholic Church in those first that Netflix series. But I thought it was interesting that conversation he has talking about grace, but then also saying that there's consequences and there's retribution.
That's what I have as the quote. If
Yeah,
you want to hear
please. Yeah, please read that, because that's
so that
was-
particular quote, and I have it verbatim, and I tend to do this as I watch and I write it out. So Matt states, "I was raised to believe in grace, that we can be touched by the divine and transformed into a better person. So if you say to me that you're a new man, I say, fine. But you should also know I was also raised to believe in retribution. So if you step out of line, I'll be there." Meaning that literally the devil is going to come out of him to go after Fisk at that point.
Yeah.
Meaning that he knows his game.
Yeah, and I like the Kingpin Wilson kind of turns that on him and goes, "Well, the same thing to you. If you start back your old vigilante ways, you're going to pay for it. So there'll be consequences for that." So yeah, that was a good scene.
Yeah, it was. I really did enjoy that. That was the one thing out of the diner that I did take away. Their little conversation about, Hell's Kitchen, how Matt hasn't been there for a while. Neither has Fisk, but the fact that he goes, "Oh, I preferred the old one diner," and it was kind of weird, but it's just like, okay, these two, and then of course now Matt's left, paying the check at the end. But yeah, that was episode 1. I really dig the idea of like where they started off with it. It was an hour in comparison to the second episode, which was only about maybe, well, if you think about it, it's not a complete hour after credits. It's maybe about 50 minutes. With second episodes, it says 45 minutes or 49 minutes. So technically, if to take out of credits, it's like another 7 minutes. So it's 42. So, these shows, it's like, because they have to do all the credits for all the different languages at that point. So you have to sit through all that. And you're like, is there an end credit scene? Is there an end credit scene? And we don't get one, everybody.
Yeah, I gave up on that with Agatha. I was like, I'm not sitting through watching all this.
Yeah, everybody knows because, Becky was on with us when we did Agatha all along. But I guess we can move on to episode 2.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take this one. Daredevil Born Again, season 1, episode 2, titled Optics. The synopsis: Matt Murdock gets a new client who's more than he claims to be, which shocker to me. Fisk learns the power of optics. If I could just start off this episode by saying, who the hell is White Tiger? I know they mentioned him in the first episode, but I'm like, why is he important?
I had the same question. I did a real quick look up, quick Google search.
Comics based. Yeah.
And in comics based, it was actually Hector Ayala was the White Tiger, and then his sister took over for him at some point. But yeah, that's he's another. He found this amulet that gives him these special powers, and he's another superhero.
Which actually comes up within the episode itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's still, I was just like, well, because I thought that whole subway, well, I guess, anyway, we can get more when we get into.
We'll get more into it. Yeah. It's more of like a, Escape from New York kind of.
Yeah, I mean, take it. He's just another Marvel superhero. He's just one that we haven't ever seen before.
Correct. Yeah.
I wonder if it was supposed to be a stand-in for Moon Knight. I wonder if maybe it was going to be a Moon Knight cameo, but they couldn't get. I don't know.
It'd be so great if we get Moon Knight again.
Yeah, they found this character, this White Tiger superhero character, and they're bringing him into the MCU. So.
Well, I like the way they did it, though, is, the subway scene was super cool. And, I don't know if you guys knew ahead of time that he was going to end up being White Tiger, if that was a surprise for everyone watching. But
It was a surprise for me. Yeah.
One of my favorite things about this show is those moments when everything else is quiet and all you hear is what Matt is hearing and how he's able to. I know he's not Spider-Man, but I still refer to it as a Spidey sense, where he can hear, what's going on, and the way he followed those cops to go after the one witness that he's got, and then him taking the punches for that guy. I just love how, because for it to be believable that someone who can't see to be able to do what he does, there's got to be a way, and they sold me on it, and the way he acts, the character, I give him 2 thumbs up, because he's really selling me as he's not even technically, outside of that opening scene in the first episode, I don't
hearing the heartbeat of
outfit.
If hearing the heartbeat of Foggy,
on his own.
Yeah, and I love you're talking about that scene, and we'll get into it probably deeper. But just when he's following the cops, and he's so intent on listening to the guy's feet that he almost gets run over by a cab.
Yeah, cab. And he looked at the cab like, "How dare you?"
Yeah, where did you come from?
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, it boils down to that they kind of gave us that same feeling too in the very beginning with the first episode, when you hear after Foggy gets shot, his heartbeat diminishing over time. He's following Foggy, and then it feeds his emotions during his battle with Bullseye in that, but he still utilizes that. And on top of that too, with his eavesdropping in on the phone call too with Benny. But we get more of that in this one also, and knowing and him stating that he knows on his date that he could tell if somebody's lying or something. He even says it to Reyes. Not, we already said everybody spoiler full, but he had, when he interrogates Reyes, he actually says it's like, I could tell if you're lying, and he knew that he was telling the truth,
right?
But except for omitting certain information, like, I'm the White Tiger.
Right.
Well, I gotta be honest, when Cherry was at the sister's apartment or wife's apartment and pulls out the thing, I was like, is this too KKK? Because I don't know who White Tiger is, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, that's bad. And
no, White Tiger, not White Rider.
And I'm like, oh, that's a lot better. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, and this is where we get to the point where I have my issue right here is, Cherry goes to the apartment, and the wife lets him go get the suit. And when he's in the suit, he finds the amulet, and that's when he figures out that this guy is White Tiger. And Matt just, whatever reason, just casually drops this guy's secret identity to this judge and this DA. In this, he's like, oh, hey, this guy's the white, and because he covers it up by telling Hector that, oh, well, if I could figure this out, they're going to figure this out. And I'm like going, how are they going to figure out? Are they going to go are they going to go illegally search his apartment too? Like your guy just did, I mean,
yeah, I know.
That confused me. I wasn't sure why that conversation happened. And that's why I was like, well, okay, maybe I missed something. And in the previous series, it's just
I don't
was
know.
Identities are just out there.
No, it makes no because Fisk doesn't mention the White Tiger. He mentions Punisher and Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Yeah.
But he never and that video they showed in the first episode is just the guy in costume beating up people at that bodega. So I'm just like, how is Matt just casually outing this guy's secret identity?
Yeah.
All they needed to correct it was for the guy to say, "Oh, everybody knows that I'm the White Tiger," but it
doesn't even come out that way.
No, it doesn't come out that way. It totally confused me. Thank you, Becky. I'm right there with you. There's no context for him why he would do this.
Yeah,
I agree. Even if he's like, even if the DA figures out, again, it just comes back to this idea that. Fisk, I guess part of it might be, are we in a different universe where all the superheroes' identities are just known? Because like Wilson Fisk knows he's the Daredevil.
Mhm.
There's a when he's talking to his girlfriend, she alludes to, and I watched that scene twice trying to figure out
when
whether
during the crowd scene when he pulls her
when
aside and stuff.
yeah, when she says, "Oh, you don't have to have the weight of this city on your shoulders." I was like, does she know that
The
he's
therapist who
Daredevil?
he's dating? Yeah,
Also,
it's weird.
because she's like, I'm not your therapist. I'm not your therapist. I'm your girlfriend. Or what, she just says, I'm not your therapist, and then kisses him. But I'm just like, is it just out in the open that who these vigilantes are?
Did this come out on the Accords that General Ross did at one point? Who knows?
BB put it out there.
I mean, because it's just weird to me that but yet at the same time, like we're talking about those man on the street interviews, they're all saying, well, where's the Daredevil? Nobody knows where the Daredevil is. And they're like, yeah, we haven't seen him in forever.
But they don't know his real name.
Yeah, obviously they must not know that he's Matt. Like, I'm just, this is what I'm saying is
Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which kind of got eliminated after No Way Home.
Right. So I don't know. I'm confused as well, and this might be something maybe they're gonna
clear it up, hopefully,
yeah, hopefully or something. But yeah, I'm a little bit confused by, like I said, Matt just outing this guy because they're gonna find out that you did it. And there was another confusing thing to me that I had to go to the IMDb trivia and figure out. Yeah. When they're in the court scene and they list off the guys, when Matt says, "Oh, we don't need to list the charges, just the crimes or something," or whatever Matt says in his lawyer speech.
He wants to dismiss whatever, but read the charges.
Something, right? And
it was weird.
And they list out 3 charges. They say 1st-degree murder, 2nd-degree murder, and 1st-degree manslaughter. And so when I read that, I was like, wait, only one guy died, right? He didn't kill 3 people. But then I went into the IMDb and I kind of understood the clarification of this is only one guy died, but there are some circumstances where a crime they can have, it can be one crime, but there can be 3 possible
reasons.
There can be 3 possible charges that can be leveled. So
he can't get convicted for all 3, right?
No, but like, for instance, in this particular case, like if he knew they were cops and he attacked them with the intent to murder, that's 1st-degree murder. Okay.
Yeah.
If he just attacked them with the intent to murder, but he didn't know they were cops, he just got into a fight with the intent to murder somebody, that's 2nd-degree murder.
Yeah.
And if it was just, he incited a fight where somebody got killed, that's 1st-degree manslaughter. So that's where the 3 different, if they, depending on how they figure out intent and what proof they have of when it comes down to intent is going to be, and what knowledge he had beforehand. Cause like the guy is claiming they didn't say they were cops. He had no idea. All he did was he saw 2 guys beating up a 3rd guy and he intervened. Which if in Oklahoma, if you carry a weapon and you have, one of the things they talk about in self-defense, in your self-defense class, is they tell you don't intervene unless it's a family member, because you don't know who's fighting there. You don't know, again, these could have been cops fighting a bad guy and you don't know. And if you shoot the wrong person,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. So,
yeah.
So I'm not saying he shouldn't have intervened, but I'm just saying that there's a certain level of intent there where you got to kind of go, I don't know what the situation is, but again, saw what we saw on the subway was we saw 2 guys beating up on a 3rd guy, and that's all we saw was so that was kind of weird about the courtroom scene, but so hopefully that kind of clears that up. But again, I still come back to this idea of if he is a vigilante, if he is a costume vigilante, but as he says, well, I didn't have my amulets and I wasn't in my costume, but you still are a vigilante. I don't know. So I'm torn on this thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
But these cops are probably going to turn out to be bad guy cops anyway.
Well,
I'm 100% sure they're bad guy cops.
Yeah.
Well, considering Fisk's conversation with the commissioner later on, And what he's trying to invoke too.
That was smooth.
That was smooth.
Talking about that sandwich and put that picture
And Philly
down.
cheesesteaks. Oh,
yes,
well, everybody
you're so
likes
bad, but that
Geno's.
was so good.
Geno's is terrible, everybody. Trust me. Who
And then
wants
afterward,
cheese
he's
whiz?
like, that was a shit sandwich.
And he was talking dog crap about, the other place. Oh my God. Everybody go to Leo's. D'Angelo's is not as good either. Go to Leo's. And there's a couple of other places that we know. Our friend Ben Beck knows best because he lives in Philly.
Yeah, if you really want to know, we can get you hooked up with the right place to get a good Philly cheesesteak.
Exactly. Anyhow, I still stand hold with Leo's, but that's just me. But there's something that was his way of getting Commissioner Gallo on his side to do what he needs to by pressuring him.
Is that the same commissioner that was at the funeral that kind of told him off? Okay, the way his hat and everything.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is that the same one?
The mustache
put
gives him away.
Yeah. But I do like that.
We're mustache buddies, so
yes.
His mustache gives him away.
I do like when he walked away though from Fisk. He's like, "Be careful what you wish for."
Yeah,
so I like that he's in a corner. He's backed into a corner, but it's obvious he's gonna fight his way out. So I can't wait to see.
If anybody who's watched Blue Bloods, understands that the police commissioner of New York City, he serves at the pleasure of the mayor, but the police serve at his pleasure, not at the pleasure of the mayor. So that's the difference there. That when he walks away, he's like, I know, I got the cops. The cops are mine. You may have a hold on me, but I got the cops. And so this is going to be an interesting relationship between these guys and seeing, because it's been a year already. So how many cops have left? Because Karen said at the beginning of the first episode, 30% of the cops have walked out. And I think in this episode, they say 50%. So
they're low.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the academy at a certain point during that conversation.
Yeah, he said you're not going to get any more. You're not going to get any more extra.
He's not getting nothing.
No.
Yep.
He's not giving him a thing. He's like, so we're good.
Yep.
Like, wow. I like Vincent D'Onofrio. I don't know if I've said that enough in this episode. So his scenes are cool, and I really liked the therapy session. I was a little creeped out when it was Matt's girlfriend who
that was the therapist.
This isn't going to end well, but I really liked their how
we're in marriage counseling, everybody.
Ooh, she's done. And I don't think she wanted him to come back. And now she's like, crap, I'm stuck here. And she's like, I don't even know why we're here. And he said, I'm here because I miss my wife. And I'm like, that is absolute crap. And the title of the episode is Optics. You need her to make you look good as mayor. That's why you're there.
Yeah, but also that was also a reference in the very beginning too about, can I fix the makeup around your eye?
The scar, yeah.
So that's another one too. That's like more involved with the gunshot wound and everything else that happened through at the very last episode of Echo.
Yeah,
and that was a good reference.
Yeah, I thought that was, and also I think they make a point of having that kid. I call him a kid. He's probably a young man who buys a book from her there before the mayor's guy talks to her, and they made a point of showing him. So that kid's got to factor in somewhere in the future. I don't know what it's going to be, but he definitely he's got to. They wouldn't have that scene be there if there wasn't.
I was curious about that.
It's foreshadowing for whatever we're going to get later on based upon this whole scenario. It's kind of that whole Dexter, What is not Dexter Original Sin
Original Sin.
that we covered before, and how there's foreshadowing within that too regarding certain.
Yeah, I'm
scenes.
sure that kid's going to come back. He's got to come back at some point to be something.
Yeah, he looks a little menacing, and then the ominous music playing. So I don't feel like it's going to be good.
Who, the kid or or Fisk?
The kid.
The kid.
The
yeah.
kid.
Had
All
excited
right,
the-
yeah. When you say the kid looks menacing, that gives me a vibe of The Boys.
Oh,
God.
Homelander's kid.
yeah. That's a
Oh.
whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's a
that-
whole nother
yeah.
thing, Becky. You're not involved with that, but
No, I watched The Boys. I've been well versed in The Boys.
I like that fight scene. When he sends the guy, he sends the witness out and tells him to go find Cherry at whatever Fort Tryon Park. Go find Cherry, and then he has that fight scene with the cops where at first, and I kind of was questioning why he attacked them so brutally, and then I on the second watch I really understood was he was letting them beat him up at first because he didn't want them to know what he could do, but it wasn't until that cop put his gun against his head and was clearly gonna murder him that's when Matt went into his rage, and that's what we're seeing. I think that's going to be a theme throughout this series is his rage at, like, Fisk talked about it, when we talked about this in the last episode, when he threw Bullseye off the roof. Fisk even referenced that. It's like, there was something about when you threw that guy off the roof, you knew, and we see him, he breaks that one guy's arm, like compound fracture.
Oh gosh. Oh, that was
it's nice to see Disney is not pulling any punches with the violence.
It's the Frank Miller in the writing and the show at this point. It's showing the brutality of what it is. He
slams that guy's head against the refrigerator and throws him down onto the ground, onto the floor, and I'm just like, is that guy alive? I don't,
exactly.
I mean, he's lucky that Bullseye lived. They made a point of showing us Bullseye on the pavement and then showed him, wake up. And then again, that's why they show him us in the courtroom getting his sentence, so they show that he's alive. Yeah. So he hasn't killed anybody yet. But I don't remember. Did he kill anybody I don't think so.
I don't remember in the original series, but we'll let Becky remind us when she does her watch.
Well, I'm curious though, because those cops are found in that guy's apartment. I'm concerned that it's not going to bode well for the witness if he does make it to testify. Well, we found two maybe dead cops in your apartment.
Nikki Torres, who is the witness,
was a good idea.
Nikki Torres, who is saved, is the one that's going to get blamed.
The next episode is going to reveal what happened. I'm sure after that, because it ends with him just in the apartment screaming. And I did see something else. I saw this on the internet, and then I double checked it when I went through my second watch of the episode. The cop, the one that tries to kill Matt, does have some sort of weird.
Yeah, what is the tattoo?
It was
a very
like a Punisher.
It was a very Punisher like skull on his wrist, a tattoo, very, very like the Punisher logo. Yep. So, we have been. Please don't tease me again. Misinformation. We've been told we're going to get John Bernthal as the Punisher in this season. So I'm excited to see that, because we, like Mark said, we started this podcast by covering the Punisher season 1.
Yep.
Back 8 years ago. Mark, was that 2017, 2018?
8 years ago.
Wow. Time flies. But so I'm excited to see John Bernthal. I did put in my notes, I hope we don't have to wait the rest of the entire season before we get to see the Daredevil suit again. So I hope
we did get to see the Daredevil suit.
Well, I mean, we saw it in the first episode, but I mean, in Born Again, actually see it as however he's going to be in this new visage. I wouldn't be surprised if we get new costumes. I'd be expecting to see something different.
Definitely different. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what happens with Nikki Torres as it continues with this case, how Matt approaches everything, his response to Fisk, and what's to come within these allegations, what happens on the follow-up of who Benny is, because I'm sure that's going to come
we're
around.
not going to. No, I don't think we're. I don't think we're going to get any resolution on Benny.
Really?
I think Benny is done. That was because that was a year ago. That was all the way back from when Foggy got killed. You're talking that has nothing to do with now. So maybe
hoping.
I mean they might bring it up, but I doubt. I just think that storyline is done. I don't think they're gonna. I think we're done with Bullseye. We're done with Foggy. I would be surprised if we see Karen Page again. I don't think we're gonna see her again at all. I think they did that scene in the first episode to close out everything with those
Shut
characters.
the door of those particular characters. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think
I'm going to hold out some hope, but I'm not going to bring it up after this until we actually do see it.
I mean, it might happen, but I just can't see why they would bring that back. There's no cause for it. But we definitely got to see Nick again. We got to see Nick again. We got to find out what happened in that apartment after, because the aftermath of that beating that is going to be something, because either somebody's got to take a blame for what happened to those cops.
Yeah.
And
that is true.
I mean, unless they're going to cover it up and be like, we don't want to tell anybody the blind lawyer beat us up. I can see that.
That's a good possibility.
I could see them being like, we're not going to tell anybody the blind lawyer beat us up. You know?
Yeah, but Matt can't see it.
Very good.
All right. Well, do you guys have any notes regarding this particular episode before we move on to quotes?
I'm done with everything I've
covered
got.
Everything I had.
Do you have any quotes?
Not for this one.
I only have one. Do you have one, Becky, or no?
No, I already said it earlier with Vanessa.
Okay. The only quote I have is from Wilson Fisk himself, and that's to Commissioner Gallo when he says, and it's regarding Commissioner Gallo, that is, to his compatriot, the one who actually gets the him into therapy, saying, men are weak. Anyone can be swayed with a piece of paper. And that's literally because of, and then that's when you see the picture of the boy and the woman, and knowing that he had a child out of wedlock, and that's how he's going to try to control them, and what that kid is in response to what Commissioner Gallo has. So what he has on Commissioner Gallo. So I thought that was pretty cool. But other than that, that's all I had.
Yeah.
All right. So as we move along, we did get some feedback, but unfortunately, according to the feedback I got, it has to be anonymous. It's because it's somebody I know that works in the industry, but he is a fan.
It's Foggy.
Yeah, sure. We'll call him Foggy. So what Foggy says, Daredevil Born Again. Well, I saw the first 2 episodes. Fantastic. Dark and violent. A great representation of the Frank Miller comic. So that's I'll take that as well. And he'll be listening, and he's a good friend. So other than that, we'll move forward into because we're heading towards the end of the podcast, everybody. So we'll go into how to submit your feedback, because obviously we got one and they sent it to me directly through an email. But to let you guys know, if you want to send feedback, all you have to do is submit your theories and thoughts to our Facebook page, which would be facebook.com. All you have to do is follow us there, facebook.com/panels2pixels. I did leave a picture, and I did leave saying, hey, leave your thoughts in the comments below. We didn't get any, which is fine, and I understand it happens. But whatever happens on Facebook actually does happen on Instagram, and you could find that at Panels to Pixels Podcast on Instagram. So just follow us there as well, and then leave your feedback in the comments below when those images do come up on what we're covering, whether it be Daredevil Born Again episodes, Invincible, which we'll be continuing to cover. Everybody, I'm sorry, a little bit late for that, but we're going to wrap that up soon enough as well, even during our coverage here with Daredevil Born Again. You could also send us an email, and you could send that to panels2pixels1@gmail.com. Panels and 2 is spelled out to pixels and the number 1 at Gmail. And you can just write out a thorough text. We'll write it out or read it based upon what you wrote, just like I did with Anonymous or Foggy. And then you can record yourself like anybody else can and just send that as an attachment on the email, and then we could play it. And we've done this before. Obviously, we could be heard on YouTube as well, the video broadcast, as well as the actual YouTube podcast. If you could listen to that as well, a lot of people have been listening to it that way. I've been seeing that a lot through Red Circle, so it's awesome. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe, ring the bell to be notified when it's there. And please tell a friend and give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. And you could actually leave comments there too. And then we could read them later on. We get them all the time. Becky gets them for What's On Tonight all the time. So, they respond to them just the same. Obviously, we could heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever podcast player of choice. If you could give us a rating or review, it'd be greatly appreciated. 5 stars are always welcomed, as well as any comments that you can, because comments actually get pointed out more so. And then, obviously, if you could tell a friend, because word of mouth spreads us out there to other people. So it's kind of water cooler talk. Hey, I know this cool particular podcast you could actually listen to. They talk about stuff we like. You could nerd out and geek out just like us. And then, or we could argue with them and send them feedback about it, or give our thoughts about it too, and let us know. But other than that, that's about how you could send sort of feedback and hear us in other places. But you could hear us elsewhere too. So we all do other things. So where else can listeners hear you? So we'll start with Steve.
I needed to say Scottsdale and get you to stop. But no, I can be heard right here on panel. I was trying to remember what was the word that you and I talked about that you said, Steve, the next time I ramble on, say this word and that'll stop me. And I can't remember what it was. So I'm going to choose Scottsdale. I'm going to use Scottsdale from now on. When I say Mark, Scottsdale means time to wrap it up. I can be heard. I can be heard right here on Panels to Pixels podcast. I also send voicemails to various other podcasts that our friends do, so you can hear my voice on those. It's very, very cool to do that, to hear other friends' podcasts and have them play my voicemails there. But main one is right here, Panels to Pixels podcast. And then also, if you check out Adrenaline Cinema, which is on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, you can hear mine and Mark's review of Lethal Weapon 2.
Which was so good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I really, really enjoyed that.
So yeah, that's me.
All right. Becky?
Well, I can be heard occasionally here on Panels to Pixels, also on a Journal and Cinema podcast, and my very own podcast called What's On Tonight. We're currently covering the incredible medical drama The Pit on Max. And for those who are fans of Dexter, Mark and I, with What's On Tonight, did a coverage of the entire season of Dexter Original Sin.
And a great job, by the way, too. It was so good.
Thank you. I was going to say, and if you guys listen to that episode, you can hear the infamous Live Steve voicemail that he was talking about. So, What's On Tonight podcast. You can find us on the Pirate Corps Entertainment Facebook page, YouTube page. I'm sorry, podcast. I'm so tired, y'all. And we do have our own Facebook page, Instagram, and all that good stuff. So please check us out.
Yeah, awesome. And as always, you can hear me here on Panels to Pixels podcast. Obviously, we're going to continue our coverage with Daredevil Born Again, and till all the episodes are covered. We will finalize our coverage on Invincible as well as get to other films that are be coming out that are adapted from comics as well. Then you could also hear me on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. As always, Steve and I will continue our Lethal Weapon series coverage eventually.
That's awesome.
We're going to try to get at least we did Lethal Weapon 2 because years ago, and he reminded me, he goes, it was like the third episode.
It was.
So it's like we can't take that long to do that. So we need to follow up with the rest. So we're going to do that, and we try to continue that hopefully within the coming months. So that way we'll give you something out, get you a little bit more out there. We're going to do more. We're going to do our series or season finale of season 2 of Mayfair Witches, obviously with Becky, Billy, Lara, myself, and anybody else who wants to come on and have fun. You could hear me on the Pirate Core music podcast that if you all heard the first episode, that was Becky and I covering Jagged Little Pill by Alanis Morissette. The next episode will be up at the end of March, and it will be Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. And I will be doing that podcast with our friend Rima, who you all know from Strange Indeed, from Podcastica. So check that out when that comes out. Rima is kind of busy with everything with Cobra Kai right now with Jason and everybody out there. And a little shout out to Podcastica, because I love what Podcastica has been doing and putting out there. Run for Your Lives is doing a lot of shows that are out there that I do enjoy. You got Yellow Jackets WTF.
WTF is right. Good Lord, that last episode.
So you can check that out. Check those podcasts out that are out there. There's also the Marvel cast on Podcastica as well. Our friend Kirk Manley, who does our artwork for our podcast, he is the host there, and he has his own take on certain films, as well as I believe they're doing Daredevil Born Again, as well as TV podcast industry. So we can't leave out Derek and John over there at TV podcast industries, as they're doing their coverage of Daredevil Born Again as well. So a little love sent out there to our friends out there in podcast land. But that's about it for our podcast here on our coverage of Daredevil Born Again season 1 episodes 1 and 2. So I just want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Becky.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. And this was Panels to Pixels podcast. We'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.